Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome, respected viewers, to the Voice of the Cape's YouTube and Facebook page, and this to our second session for the Matric Revision sessions being held by the Voice of the Cape for this year 2024. For today, Alhamdulillah, we have none other than Sister Zainab Afrika, who is a tutor part of Supreme Scholar, and she will be covering Physics Paper 1, inshallah. Please, to all of the beloved parents out there and the matriculants, please forward and share this link with all the other matriculants in order that they may benefit from the Matric Revision sessions for this year, inshallah. Without further ado, we hand over to Sister Zainab, who will be facilitating preparation for Physics Paper 1, inshallah. All yours, Sister Zainab.
Okay, shukran so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, and welcome to our first session of Physics Paper 1. I hope you guys are gearing up nicely for our mock or trial exams, if some of you may call it that, and also for our final national senior certificate. So today we are going to be digging into a little bit of physics, and I wanted us to just basically understand and unpack physics before we get into the more complex ideas of physics. And so today's topic I've chosen to kick off our sessions is impulse and momentum. Okay, so just for the contents of today's lesson, we are going to basically unpack a little bit how do we understand physics, and then we're going to just have an overview of the topics of paper 1 that's going to need to be covered. And then obviously we are going to speak about impulse and momentum. And so within impulse and momentum, we are going to basically define impulse and momentum. We're going to understand and interpret the formulas and how we use them and we apply them to the calculations that you will be given. And then basically just do normal, typical impulse and momentum questions. And then last thing we'll basically be covering is a typical exam question. Okay, so let's understand physics. A lot of us have this sort of negative attitude towards mathematics and especially physics. And we know that physical science has two branches. It has the physical aspect and it has the chemistry aspect. But for today, we are only going to be focusing on the physics, right? And so why is physics important and why do we study physics, right? So we know we live in this very complex universe, and this universe encompasses a lot of things. And so basically, to put it in simple terms, as the definition says here, it basically defines the most fundamental, measurable quantities in the universe. So when we talk about fundamental, we're talking about the building blocks of matter, right? Measurable, something we can measure. So there we talk about motions and we talk about the quantities in the universe, such as velocity, electric field, kinetic energy, potential energy, right? And not only do we want to understand it, or do we want to define those fundamental concepts of how we define motion, okay, we also want to know what is the relationship between these concepts, right? So basically physics is, in a more simpler way, it's basically defining motion. Okay, we need to understand why gravity works the way it does, why acceleration works the way it does, why velocity works the way it does. Okay, and so when we understand or we be able to define motion, then we can establish a relationship between displacement, between velocity, between acceleration, and so forth. Okay, and so just quickly, an overview of the topics of paper 1. You know that the total marks for paper 1 is 150 marks, and it's broken up into different categories. And so the biggest section of physics is mechanics, and it's a section that a lot of students struggle with. And so we're going to try in these sessions and in the coming sessions, inshallah, to sort of unpack it. And I'm going to try and teach you or make you understand a little bit of tricks that I was taught back in high school that will basically help you to navigate through the different exam questions. Okay, so mechanics consists of Newton's laws, it consists of impulse and momentum, it consists of the work energy theorem, all of those things that's got to do with mechanics. It basically counts a chunk of your paper, and then we have wave, sound, and light. We have electricity and magnetism, and we have matter and material. So this is just basically an overview of the questions. And basically 130 the 150 marks is basically your long questions. Okay, 10 of them are multiple choice, and then the other 10 will be true or false or match the column, etc., etc. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit. We are talking about impulse and momentum. So the first thing we are going to talk about is momentum. Okay, what is momentum? So as it says here, momentum is a word that we use almost every day, maybe some of us, okay? When we say that someone has a lot of momentum, it means basically they're on a roll or they're difficult to stop or someone is moving forward, right? And so in physics, momentum means mass in motion. You cannot have momentum if you do not have a mass. Okay, I hope that's very important, and that's something that I need to stress. And it's important for us to understand it before we get into all the other difficult concepts, the so called difficult concepts of physics. Okay, so momentum means mass in motion. In order for something to have momentum, in order for something to be moving, think about it, let's think about it rationally, right? Something cannot move if it's massless. Okay, let's just think about it in simple terms. When you get to university, inshallah, you will learn about Einstein's special theory of relativity, and so all of those things will come in afterward. But for now, we're not going to dig into the complex things of physics. We just want to understand that momentum, okay, means mass in motion. You, as an individual, you have a certain mass. You probably weigh 56 kilograms, and so when you are moving, it's your mass that's in motion, okay? Therefore, it says, and the more mass an object has, the more momentum it will have, okay? And if it has more momentum, then it will have more velocity. Okay, so those are that's just basically the fundamental concept of momentum. Think about it, mass in motion, M in M. I think about it like that, mass in motion. Okay, and so how do we understand momentum in mathematical terms? Okay, so momentum is it's an object's mass due to its velocity. Okay, you have to have two components in order to understand or in order to identify momentum. Okay, so momentum is mass times velocity, and the mathematical symbol for this, it shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, is P is equal to M times V. Take note of this notation because we're going to come back to it. Okay, so take note of it because we're going to come back to the P is equal to M times V. That's very, very, very important. And so in physics, a lot of students don't really understand the importance of units. Okay, so let's think about it. Units for momentum is kilograms meters per second. Why kilograms meters per second? Mass, okay, will always be in kilograms, because it's mass, right? It takes up space. So mass is kilograms, and if you times it by velocity, velocity is always meters per second, and so your answer will always be kilograms dot meters per second. You're taking the two quantities and you are combining it together so that it is kilograms meters per second. All right, so that's just something important that I have to stress. Same with work energy theorem, same with Newton's laws, same with electricity, same with electrostatics. All of these things have units, and so it's important for you to write those units because at the end of the year, you are going to have external moderators, external markers, right? And so if you do not write your units, it's very easy for you to lose marks. Okay. So let's look at basic momentum equations. Okay. And so we are just going to, because they are quite simple, we are going to verbally explain them and understand them. Okay, so the first one is determine the momentum of A1, a 60 kilogram truck moving eastward at 90 meters per second. Remember, let's go back to grade 11 quickly. Let's fast track a little bit to grade 11, right? Momentum is a vector, okay? And so vector needs to have what? It has to have magnitude and it has to have direction. Magnitude and direction. That is a vector. Okay, so it says determine the momentum of number one, a 60 kilogram truck moving eastward at 90 meters per second. So M, remember, momentum is mass in motion. P is equal to M times V. P, we're looking for P because P, let's go back, is the symbol for momentum. We need to have two things in order to solve the question. M and V. Okay, so M is the mass and V is the velocity. Okay, so in our question number one, it will be P is equal to M times V. Okay, so 60 multiplied by 9 meters per second. Okay, so 60 multiplied by 9 meters per second. I'm going to give you a few minutes to take out your calculator and give me an answer. Remember what the units are for momentum. Kilograms, meters per second. Okay, kilograms, meters per second. Okay, and so I'll leave you to do the answer. This is quite simple, very straightforward. So 60 multiplied by 9, and that should give you an answer in kilograms meters per second. The next one, now we need to determine the momentum of a 1,000-kilogram car moving northward at 20 meters per second. Again, we have the mass and we have the velocity. Make sure that your units are in the correct SI notation. Okay? Make sure that's very important. Again, so straightforward as the first one, P is equal to M times V. You have M and you have V, and you should get an answer. We will post the answers a bit later. Then the third one, a 40-gram box pushed southward at 2 meters per second. Now take note of the units, grams, okay? We need to first convert the grams to kilograms, and that's how they catch you out in the exam, okay? Remember, we do not use grams because the unit for momentum is kilograms meters per second, right? So 40 grams, how many grams are there in 1 kilogram? Should be 1,000, okay? So you're going to convert the grams to kilograms. Once you get your answer, you're then going to say P is equal to M times V, and then you're going to have your answer in kilograms multiplied by 2 meters per second, and then you should have your momentum. Okay, now let's define impulse, okay? Let's define impulse. So we've defined momentum. What did we say? It's mass in motion. It's an object's mass due to its change in velocity, okay? So let's define what impulse is, okay? So we've already spoken about momentum. The change in momentum is called the impulse, okay? Any object that is changing its momentum is experiencing an impulse, okay? So remember, when we are moving, okay? When we are moving, let's say I'm walking to the shop and someone comes and pushes me, okay? Impulse must happen due to an unbalanced force, okay? Because of Newton's second law, okay? What does Newton's law state? And we'll get to Newton's second law, but just to give us a bit of a refresher, Newton's second law states that an object will continue in motion or remain at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Okay, so impulse means like I'm walking and someone comes quickly and pushes me out the way. That's impulse, okay? I didn't expect it to happen. Or someone says you're very impulsive, okay? It means that you're very impulsive. It means that just out of the blue you just snap, or you know, in our so-called language, you get angry or you trip or you get, you know. So impulse is when something happens quickly, okay? And in physics, we say it's acted upon by an unbalanced force. And so how is impulse related to momentum? Remember, we said that momentum is mass times velocity, okay? And so impulse is the change in velocity, okay? Because if I'm walking at 10 meters per second and someone comes and pushes me out the way, my velocity is going to decrease. So that change in velocity is what is known as my impulse, okay? And so we know that impulse will be someone's final momentum minus the initial momentum, okay? And so the impulse will be M times V final minus M times V initial, okay? And so in our second part, we are going to do a little bit of questions where there's a combination of impulse and momentum together, and we are going to solve some of those problems, inshallah. So I'm looking forward to the next session, and that will be part 2 of impulse and momentum. Shukran, jazakallah khair. See you soon.
MashaAllah, we say shukran, jazakallah khair, and thank you very much to our sister Zainab Afrika from Supreme Scholar for so beautifully rendering and facilitating the important information that needs to be given over to all of our matriculant students pertaining to their preparation for physics paper 1. Of course, we make dua and we pray that Allah Almighty grants all of our matriculants all the success as they prepare for the upcoming examinations, inshallah. And as a final reminder to all of our beloved viewers on the Voice of the Cape's YouTube and Facebook page, please like the video and ensure that you share this video with all of those who are due doing physics, inshallah, in preparation for their trial examinations and, of course, their NSC examinations later on in the year. We thank our sister Zainab for honoring us for the first session, inshallah, for physics. And inshallah, in our coming sessions, we will further expound upon all the topics pertaining to physics paper 1, mathematics, and all of the other subjects as well, inshallah. From our side, we say shukran, jazakallah khairin, baydra makasi, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.